You wake up one morning and everything feels the same. The familiar hum of your alarm, the predictable sequence of thoughts that drag you from bed, the quiet rituals you've repeated so many times they no longer feel like choices but obligations. You know exactly what comes next: the coffee, the commute, the careful small talk, the routine tasks stacked neatly on your desk. Safe. Familiar. Comfortable. But then, somewhere between the second sip of coffee and the first check of your phone, a whisper creeps in, a question you didn't invite. Is this it? Comfort. We are told it's what we should strive for. A stable job, a secure relationship, a home that shields us from storms, routines that ease our anxieties. The modern world even markets it as the ultimate prize: comfort food, comfort clothing, comfort subscriptions. Everything designed to eliminate friction, to wrap you in a soft blanket where nothing unpredictable can touch you. But what if that blanket is not protection, but suffocation? What if your comfort zone is not a sanctuary, but a prison? Nietzsche once said, "The secret for harvesting from existence the greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment is to live dangerously." A strange phrase. Live dangerously. Not recklessly, but dangerously. For Nietzsche, life was never meant to be anesthetized. It was not meant to be padded with endless safety nets. Life, in its rawest form, was risk. It was struggle. It was the violent clash between who you are now and who you might become. Yet, look around. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding that clash, doing everything possible to sidestep discomfort. And so, a paradox emerges. The very thing you chase to protect yourself, comfort, is the very thing that slowly drains you of vitality. A comfortable life may feel secure, but is it truly alive? Or is it a living death, disguised as success? Imagine yourself at 80, looking back at decades where each day bled into the next. No great failures, perhaps, but no great triumphs either. No moments where your heart raced, no leaps into the unknown, no terrifying but transformative choices. Just smooth surfaces, padded walls, and predictable steps. Would you call that a life, or a prolonged waiting room for death? This is the great question Nietzsche forces upon you. Is your comfort zone your kingdom, or your cage? Welcome to the Legend's Legacy, where we don't simply repeat history's greatest thinkers, but wrestle with them. We take their most unsettling ideas and hold them against our own lives, like a mirror. Nietzsche doesn't whisper easy truths, he hurls them like lightning. And one of his most striking bolts is this: comfort is seductive precisely because it keeps you small. So let's push further. Why do you cling to comfort so desperately, even as it quietly hollows you out? Is it fear of failure? Fear of ridicule? Fear of pain? Or something deeper, a fear of yourself, of what you could become if you dared to break free from routine? The comfort zone has an unspoken bargain: give up risk, and you'll be safe. But safe from what? Pain? Growth? Greatness? And if you never suffer the sting of failure, how will you ever taste the glory of triumph? Nietzsche believed that human beings are not meant to remain in cocoons. We are meant to tear through them, wings bleeding, in pursuit of a higher version of ourselves. Comfort denies that. Comfort whispers, "Stay here. Stay small. Stay the same." Think of a lion raised in captivity, fed daily, protected from predators. On the surface, its life is ideal. No hunger, no danger, no fight for survival. But look into its eyes, and you'll see something haunting, a lost wildness, a quiet despair. Its comfort has stripped it of its essence. Are you so different? When was the last time you did something that scared you? Not because it was reckless, but because it demanded growth. Nietzsche challenges you to confront this. Perhaps the greatest danger is not stepping outside your comfort zone, but never leaving it. Perhaps the most terrifying risk is not failing, but living without ever having truly risked anything at all. So ask yourself, are you alive, or are you merely existing? Are you a free being, or a prisoner who has mistaken the softness of his chains for freedom? The comfort zone is not neutral. It is not harmless. It is an invisible cage built from your fears, reinforced by society's expectations, and guarded by your own complacency. You may not see the bars, but they are there. And Nietzsche, in his brutal honesty, rips the veil away and demands you look at them directly. The question is no longer whether you should seek comfort. The question is, how much of your life are you willing to sacrifice at its altar? And as this question lingers in your mind like smoke, let us now turn to something deeper, the hidden roots of this prison. Where does it come from? Why do we build it? And why do we keep returning to it, even when it steals our strength? The prison of comfort does not appear overnight. It is not imposed by brute force, nor does it announce itself with chains and guards. Instead, it grows silently, like ivy climbing a wall, weaving itself into the corners of your psyche until one day you find yourself bound by something invisible but unshakable. Why? Because comfort is not just a lifestyle, it is a deep psychological need twisted into a trap. Carl Jung once wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." That avoidance, this flight from the depths of the self, is where the comfort zone begins. To sit with your own soul is to confront chaos, your insecurities, your traumas, your fears of inadequacy. Yet, instead of diving into that abyss, most people retreat. They build routines to cover the silence, distractions to muffle the deeper questions, comforts to shield them from themselves. Nietzsche saw this tendency everywhere. He called it herd morality, the instinct to follow the safe path, to merge into the group, to seek the approval of the majority. It is easier to walk with the herd than to carve your own path. The herd offers security, validation, belonging. But it comes at a cost: individuality, authenticity, greatness. You become a copy rather than a creation. Philosophically, this problem has roots in something older than Nietzsche. Schopenhauer believed that life itself is suffering, a ceaseless striving of the will. His view was grim, existence as endless dissatisfaction. Comfort, in this context, is a desperate attempt to soften the blow of reality. We seek pleasure not because it fulfills us, but because it briefly distracts us from the endless grind of wanting. The warm bed, the predictable job, the numbing entertainment, all small narcotics against the unbearable weight of being. But Nietzsche, unlike Schopenhauer, did not advocate resignation. Instead, he accused humanity of cowardice. Comfort, to him, was not merely a coping mechanism, it was self-betrayal. Psychology today supports what these philosophers intuited. The human brain is wired for what's called homeostasis, the drive to maintain stability. Anything unfamiliar is registered as potential danger. Your nervous system resists the unknown because the unknown could harm you. So when you step outside your comfort zone, whether it's public speaking, starting a new career, or ending a toxic relationship, your body reacts as if you've stepped into a battlefield. Sweaty palms, racing heart, shallow breath. Fear. That fear convinces you to retreat, and retreating feels safe. Thus, you return to the comfort zone. The brain rewards you with relief, which reinforces the behavior. A cycle begins: discomfort, fear, retreat, relief. Slowly, this cycle tightens into a cage. But the hidden problem is not simply biological. It is existential. Sartre spoke of bad faith, the act of lying to yourself in order to escape the burden of freedom. Comfort enables this lie. You convince yourself that your routine is enough, that mediocrity is noble, that your small life is all you were meant for. You pretend the bars of the cage are walls you chose. But deep down, the gnawing persists. You know you are capable of more, yet you refuse to face it. Comfort makes that refusal palatable. Aldous Huxley warned of this in a modern context. He feared not a society crushed by pain, but a society drowned in pleasure. In Brave New World, humanity was pacified not by oppression, but by comfort, engineered pleasure, constant distraction, the numbing hum of easy living. People surrendered their freedom willingly because discomfort had been eliminated. What Huxley fictionalized, we live. The algorithms that feed you endless entertainment, the conveniences that remove every difficulty, the technologies that promise effortless living, these are not neutral. They condition you into passive existence, lulling you into surrender. So here lies the psychological and philosophical root. Your comfort zone is not built only from fear of failure or desire for pleasure. It is built from a deep avoidance of the human condition itself. You fear discomfort because discomfort forces you to confront your mortality, your freedom, your responsibility, your insignificance. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the concentration camps, put it starkly. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Comfort denies this challenge. It tricks you into believing no change is needed. But here is the darker truth. By avoiding the discomfort of growth, you do not eliminate suffering, you trade it for another kind. You accept the slow suffocation of stagnation, the quiet despair of unused potential. Jung believed that what we do not confront in the conscious mind appears later as fate. The challenges you run from, the growth you avoid, return to you as bitterness, regret, or neurosis. Comfort is not safety. It is delayed suffering. And so, the hidden problem reveals itself. The comfort zone is not built from external walls, but from your own psyche. It is the manifestation of your fear of freedom, your avoidance of truth, your unwillingness to bear the burden of your own becoming. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you reinforce this prison. And the longer you remain, the more difficult it becomes to leave. Yet, perhaps this realization is not enough. Because even if you see the prison, you may still cling to it. Why? Because of the unseen consequences. The subtle ways this cage shapes your life, your relationships, your culture, even your identity. Consequences you may not notice until it is too late. And that is where we must turn next. The tragedy of the comfort zone is not simply that it limits your growth. Its cruelty lies in how it reshapes your life without your permission, seeping into the deepest corners of your existence, often without you even noticing. Comfort does not announce itself as destruction. It whispers as kindness. It tells you, rest. Stay safe. You deserve it. And while you rest, while you stay safe, your life is quietly being stolen from you. One of the most insidious consequences is the erosion of resilience. The less discomfort you expose yourself to, the weaker you become in the face of it. It is like a muscle that atrophies from disuse. Avoid public speaking long enough, and even speaking to a small group becomes terrifying. Avoid risk in your career long enough, and even minor decisions feel paralyzing. Avoid heartbreak long enough, and even love feels dangerous. Slowly, your capacity to handle life shrinks until you live inside a fragile bubble, terrified of the very world you are meant to engage with. Nietzsche warned, "He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow." But without exposure to struggle, you never discover your why. You remain weak, brittle, unable to endure the storms of existence. Cognitive science explains this with the concept of hedonic adaptation. The more comfort you consume, the less satisfaction it brings. A warm bed feels heavenly after hardship, but numbingly ordinary after routine. Pleasure loses its edge when it is constant. Comfort, paradoxically, breeds dissatisfaction. You find yourself restless, scrolling endlessly, chasing new distractions, wondering why life feels flat. You blame external circumstances, but the real issue lies in the excess of ease itself. What was meant to soothe you instead numbs you. This numbness seeps beyond the individual. Entire cultures collapse into mediocrity when comfort becomes their highest value. Think of civilizations that grew wealthy and powerful, only to rot from within. Rome's decline was not only from outside invasion, but from inside decay, decadence, complacency, the worship of ease. History repeats this pattern. Strength builds prosperity. Prosperity breeds comfort. Comfort breeds weakness. Weakness invites collapse. The cycle turns. And in your own life, the pattern is no less ruthless. Another unseen consequence is the quiet death of ambition. When comfort seduces you, it convinces you that striving is unnecessary. Why chase greatness when good enough is within reach? Why risk failure when you can stay secure? But this refusal to strive comes with a hidden cost, the death of meaning. For Nietzsche, meaning was never handed down from heaven. It was forged in the fire of striving, in the pursuit of becoming more than what you are. To deny that struggle is to deny your essence. You may live safely, but you live without depth. Relationships, too, rot inside the comfort cage. When you choose comfort, you avoid difficult conversations, sidestep vulnerability, resist confrontation. You settle for the surface, afraid to dive into the depths where intimacy requires discomfort. Couples remain together not out of love but out of habit, too fearful of loneliness to risk truth. Friendships stagnate, never tested by honesty or sacrifice. Family bonds become polite rituals instead of living connections. Comfort kills not only your own growth but the growth of every bond around you. And then there's the cultural reinforcement. The world today is engineered to keep you inside the cage. Consumerism thrives on your passivity. Advertisements whisper that happiness lies in the next purchase, the next subscription, the next indulgence. Social media feeds you dopamine hits designed to keep you scrolling, safe from boredom, safe from silence. Algorithms do not want you to rebel, they want you to consume. And so, society quietly conspires with your fears to keep you comfortable, compliant, predictable. But perhaps the most devastating unseen consequence is existential despair. You may not name it as such. You may feel it as a dull emptiness, a sense that life is slipping away unnoticed. Days blur, weeks vanish, years pass with little to mark them. You achieve safety, but in exchange, you lose vitality. And then one morning, whether at 30, 50, or 80, you wake up to the unbearable question: what have I done with my life? The comfort zone hides that question from you until it's too late. Jung once said that the greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents. Imagine passing down that burden, not only living small yourself but teaching your children to do the same. They inherit not your wisdom, but your fear. They grow up inside the same invisible cage, mistaking it for freedom, never knowing what might have been if you had dared to break free. The unseen consequence of your comfort is not just your wasted potential, but the wasted potential of those who follow you. And yet, the cage endures because it is seductive. It is far easier to point to external forces, economy, society, obligations, than to admit the truth: you are complicit in your own imprisonment. Sartre insisted that freedom is inescapable. Even refusing to choose is itself a choice. The comfort zone is not something done to you, it is something you collude with, day after day. And the longer you collude, the deeper the bars sink into your skin. The unseen consequences are everywhere, in your brittle resilience, your numbed pleasures, your stagnant relationships, your cultural complacency, your existential despair. You may not see them as consequences of comfort. You may think they are accidents, unfortunate circumstances, or simply how life is. But Nietzsche tears off the mask and reveals the truth. They are the natural result of refusing to risk, refusing to struggle, refusing to live dangerously. And if this realization feels suffocating, good. That suffocation is the beginning of awareness. It is the crack in the wall of the prison. Because only when you see the unseen consequences clearly can you begin to rebel against them. But rebellion is no small task. It requires courage so radical, so counterintuitive, that it feels almost impossible in a world addicted to comfort. And yet, Nietzsche believed rebellion was the only way to life. The only way to break free. If the comfort zone is a prison, then rebellion is not an option, it is a necessity. But this rebellion is not against governments or institutions alone. It is rebellion against the smallest, most insidious tyrant you know, yourself. Against your craving for ease, your fear of the unknown, your desire to remain untouched by risk. Nietzsche never offered a blueprint for comfort. He offered a challenge. Become who you are. To break free, you must accept that this command is not a suggestion, but a demand life itself places upon you. The first step of rebellion is to unmask the lie of safety. Safety is never absolute. You may avoid risk, but you cannot avoid tragedy. Illness, betrayal, aging, loss, life will find you no matter how tightly you cling to comfort. The rebellion begins when you realize that safety is an illusion and that by clinging to it, you trade vitality for false security. Nietzsche urged, One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Chaos is not your enemy. It is your source of creation. To rebel is to welcome chaos back into your life. Practically, this means seeking discomfort deliberately. Expose yourself to the things you fear, not recklessly, but consciously. Take on challenges that stretch you, conversations that unsettle you, decisions that terrify you. Each act of discomfort is a crack in the prison wall. The Stoics practiced this centuries before Nietzsche, wearing rough clothes, fasting, sleeping on the floor, to remind themselves that comfort is not essential for living. They believed voluntary discomfort strengthened the soul. Nietzsche sharpened this point: discomfort is not only training, it is transformation. But rebellion is not just about enduring hardship. It is about creating values where none exist. This was Nietzsche's call to the Übermensch, the one who transcends herd morality, who invents new meanings instead of borrowing old ones. Breaking free from comfort is not only about saying no to ease, it is about saying yes to becoming. You rebel when you decide that your life will not be dictated by fear of pain, but by pursuit of greatness. Think of history's rebels, not only political revolutionaries but personal ones. Vincent van Gogh, painting in madness and poverty, refusing the comfort of conformity, leaving behind a legacy that redefined art. Galileo, risking persecution to speak the truth of the cosmos. Rosa Parks, who shattered social comfort with a single act of defiance on a bus. Their rebellion was costly, but it was alive. Comfort never produces legends. Rebellion does. Psychologically, rebellion requires rewiring your relationship with fear. Neuroscience shows that avoidance strengthens fear circuits in the brain. Exposure, on the other hand, rewrites them. Each time you lean into discomfort, your brain learns that fear does not equal death. Slowly, the cage loosens. You begin to trust yourself not only to survive uncertainty but to thrive in it. This is why Nietzsche spoke of amor fati, the love of fate. Not passive acceptance, but active embrace. To love whatever comes, even the pain, as fuel for your becoming. Yet rebellion is lonely. The herd will not understand. They will call you reckless, selfish, delusional. They will mock your choices because your rebellion exposes their own cowardice. Nietzsche himself lived this isolation, walking away from academic safety, enduring sickness and solitude, misunderstood until long after his death. To break free from comfort is to risk exile, not only from others but from the version of yourself that longs for approval. The rebel must be willing to lose the world to gain his soul. Still, rebellion is not all suffering. There is exhilaration in risk. When you push through fear, you discover capacities you never suspected. That first trembling speech, that bold career leap, that terrifying journey alone, these are not punishments, but revelations. You realize that life expands in proportion to your courage. What was once impossible becomes inevitable. The rebellion creates a self that did not exist before. This rebellion also requires radical honesty. Nietzsche despised self-deception. To live dangerously means confronting your illusions, stripping away the excuses, and admitting where you have chosen comfort over truth. Do you cling to a job you hate because it pays well? Do you stay in relationships that numb you because leaving would be hard? Do you drown yourself in distractions because silence terrifies you? Rebellion begins the moment you say aloud, "Yes, I have built this prison myself." Only then can you tear it down. But perhaps the most revolutionary act is to reframe suffering itself. The comfort zone teaches you to see suffering as something to avoid at all costs. Nietzsche teaches the opposite. Suffering is the forge of transformation. It is not a curse but a crucible. Without it, no strength is born, no meaning is created, no greatness is achieved. To rebel against the comfort zone is to embrace suffering as your teacher. Not because suffering is good in itself, but because it awakens you to what lies beyond it. So how do you begin? You begin small. One act of deliberate discomfort. A truth spoken when silence would be easier. A risk taken when safety would be comfortable. A challenge embraced when retreat would be natural. With each step, the prison walls crack. With each rebellion you breathe deeper. Nietzsche would not tell you the path is easy. He would tell you it is necessary. He would demand that you abandon the fantasy of comfort as the highest good and replace it with the courage to live dangerously, to seek struggle, to will your own transformation. He would remind you that the prison is not out there, it is in here. And rebellion begins the moment you decide to no longer collaborate with your own captivity. The comfort zone is the enemy. Rebellion is the cure. But rebellion alone is not enough. For beyond rebellion lies something greater, the ultimate truth, the realization that changes not only how you live but how you see life itself. And that final revelation is where we now must go. You have seen the cage. You have traced its roots. You have felt its consequences, and you have rebelled against it. But rebellion alone is only the beginning. Breaking free is not just about shattering walls. It is about stepping into a new kind of existence. And here lies the ultimate truth Nietzsche wanted you to confront. Your comfort zone is not simply a prison, it is a denial of life itself. To live outside it is not merely to endure more, it is to become more. The comfort zone whispers, avoid suffering, avoid risk, avoid the unknown. Nietzsche roars back, suffering, risk, and the unknown are life. Strip them away and what remains is not life, but survival. You may still breathe, eat, work, and sleep. But you will not live. Living, in Nietzsche's vision, is not the absence of struggle but the full embrace of it. The ultimate truth is that meaning, greatness, and vitality are not found despite suffering, but through it. Think of fire. To the comfort seeker, fire is danger, it burns, it destroys. But to the one who dares, fire is creation, it warms, it illuminates, it forges. So it is with suffering and struggle. They are not punishments to be avoided but flames through which your truest self is forged. Nietzsche's challenge was radical. Love the fire. Love the struggle. Love even the suffering. This was his amor fati, the love of fate. Not resignation, but a passionate affirmation, yes, even this. Even the pain, even the loss, even the chaos, yes. At first, this sounds unbearable. How can you love what hurts you? But here lies the paradox. The moment you stop resisting suffering, it changes shape. It ceases to be an enemy and becomes a source of power. Resistance to suffering chains you. Embrace of suffering transforms you. The comfort zone withholds this truth from you, convincing you that freedom lies in escape. But the ultimate truth is that freedom lies in affirmation. To say yes to life, not just the easy parts, but all of it. And when you embrace this, something extraordinary happens. The world itself begins to shift. Ordinary days no longer feel flat because even the struggles have meaning. Failures no longer crush you because they are teachers, not verdicts. Uncertainty no longer paralyzes you because it is the very field where possibility is born. Life is no longer something to endure, but something to affirm. Nietzsche called this the highest act of spirit, to gaze upon existence, with all its cruelty and beauty, and declare, once more! This is where the ultimate truth cuts deepest. Your comfort zone keeps you from eternity. Nietzsche imagined the test of eternal recurrence, the idea that you must live your life again and again, infinitely, in every detail. Every choice, every pain, every joy, repeated forever. Now ask yourself, if you had to relive today eternally, would you accept it? Or would you recoil? If your life of comfort fills you with dread at the thought of infinite repetition, then you are not living, you are hiding. The ultimate truth demands this question: can you affirm your life so fully that you would choose to live it again, endlessly? The answer is not found in comfort. Comfort breeds regret, stagnation, despair. But outside the prison, in the raw air of risk and struggle, you discover moments worth affirming forever. The trembling first leap, the bold pursuit of meaning, the battle for your own becoming, these are the sparks that make existence luminous. This is why Nietzsche insisted on living dangerously, not because danger is glamorous, but because it is real. In danger, in struggle, in growth, you are fully alive. So what does this mean for you here now? It means that every moment you face a choice between comfort and growth, you face the question of life or death. Not physical death, but spiritual death. Every retreat into comfort is a small surrender of vitality. Every leap into discomfort is a small affirmation of life. And over time, those choices accumulate into a destiny. Perhaps this is the most powerful realization: the prison was never locked. The door has always been open. The bars were illusions built from fear, from habit, from society's whispers. You were never trapped. You were choosing to remain. And if you chose it once, you can choose differently now. You can choose discomfort. You can choose growth. You can choose life. The rebellion is not a one-time act. It is a daily discipline. Each morning you face the choice: remain asleep in the comfort of routine, or awaken to the dangerous, exhilarating task of becoming who you are. Nietzsche does not promise that this path will be easy. He promises only that it will be real. And perhaps that is enough. Now ask yourself, will you remain in the prison, safe but suffocating? Or will you step into the storm, into the fire, into the unknown, and discover the truth Nietzsche devoted his life to proclaiming: that your comfort zone is not freedom, but captivity, and only beyond it will you find the fullness of existence? The choice is yours. But remember this: every moment you hesitate, the prison grows stronger. And every moment you dare, even in trembling steps, the walls begin to crumble. So live dangerously. Affirm your fate. Break the cage. Become who you are. And perhaps, when you look back, not at 80, not at the end, but even tomorrow, you will feel the quiet, unshakable truth Nietzsche left behind: that life begins at the edge of your comfort zone, and the only true prison is the one you refuse to leave.